Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Chris Detzel. This podcast starts now.
Welcome to another Peers Over Beers. I'm Chris Detzel, and I do have a special guest today.
Hey, everyone. Hi, Chris. I am Marjorie Anderson. I'm the product manager for community at Project Management Institute. I am also the founder of Community by Association.
Oh, that sounds important. I like that. So we were just talking on the pre-show a little bit, and thank you so much for coming on. Sir, I was so excited that you said yes to this. And I wasn't sure if you were because you didn't reply right away. But when you did, I was like, oh my God. And it took us a little time to get you on the calendar. So you must be a busy woman.
It has been a busy few weeks, that is for sure. And I have to tell you that I've been listening to and kind of watching from afar Peers Over Beers. I'm like, one day Chris is going to ask me to be on Peers Over Beers. I can feel it. I'm just going to wait. And then it finally came.
You don't have to wait. You should have just asked. You should just ask. You know, I think that's the thing is, if you would have asked, I would have done it. No problem. I just, I've been busy too. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. We were talking a little bit about over the last couple of years, I feel like you've kind of exploded into the community management. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, so that's really awesome. But I feel like you've really kind of come a long way over the last, maybe it's 2 or 3 years, in speaking engagements and getting your name known and everything else. I'm loving that you're doing that. What's changed?
That's a great question. It's something that I sit and reflect on. So just to kind of give a little bit of background, like I've been doing this work for about 8+ years. And when I first started community management work, there was lots of content and conversations and communities out there for community managers. But yeah. I work in an association, and there are some nuances that are very, very different than, say, a product community or, some other sort of community because of the way that those organizations are governed. And so I was looking for content that specifically spoke to those nuances and those maybe governance challenges. So things like, how do you deal with ensuring that you continue to get the budget that you need from your board of directors? Because in an association, your board of directors approves your budget, not finance. So those are the types of things that I was looking for. Yeah. And how do you ensure that you are providing value not only to your members, but also possibly helping create connections at the local level through separately incorporated chapters? So those are the types of things that I was looking for, and I could not find content anywhere about that. And the one blog that I did find was the voice for that at the time that I really had a lot of trust in was Maggie McGarry. And when I found her blog, she had stopped writing. And so I was like, what now? And in 2018, I decided I was going to start a blog. I was 5 years into my community journey, and I decided to start a blog to share what I was learning. Everything kind of took off from there. People who were in the association and nonprofit space started to find and connect with my content. And from there, I launched an online community for those folks.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah. And then in 2020, I started to really explore what community by association could be. What more could it be for the association and nonprofit space? And I kind of did a soft launch at the end of 2020 and moved from just being a blog to an LLC. So there's this element now of content creation and community, and an element of what I like to think of as service to associations and nonprofits, and helping them figuring out the strategies and the things that they need in order to build strong programs, and putting the accountability for the success of those programs in the hands of senior leaders to support their community staff. So that's kind of the journey that it's taken. And I think because of that journey and really kind of staying tapped into what I'm seeing as trends and needs in that space, that has been a key piece in kind of pushing that work to the forefront.
I love that. It's called passion.
Definitely something like for me to like, yeah, I do that during the day. And also that's going to be something I do on the side too, is like I have to be passionate about it in order to do it. Like, and this is work I absolutely love.
It's funny because a few things. One is this Peers Over Beers, even as of late, has become more of a passion for me. When I first started Peers Over Beers, it was one because Michael Sandoval and I were the founders of this, and more so, I just wanted to be close to him because I knew after that I quit Rexel and went to another company that he's a hard dude to get in front or to stay in touch with because he doesn't get his text. So my idea was, let's do a peers over, not a peers over, but let's do a podcast. And so when we did this podcast, he said yes, and I was so ecstatic. And he came up with the name Peers Over Beers and even the logo and everything else. So I'll probably always keep that. But then it became more of a, man, it would be really nice to educate these people because a lot of times you would start hearing people talk a lot about tactics that they're doing, things they're doing to drive their community, but they were never talking about the overall strategy and everything else. And I was like, well, if you guys, the more I've done this, the more I've learned that you have to have a strategy, and you have to align that your strategy with the business strategy goals and everything else to be successful at the end of the day in a business level. Now it's probably a little different. So this is now, since Michael passed away back in late December, it's been more of my goal to really focus in on and make videos, do these kinds of things to educate our community leaders of the future, right? And even hopefully leaders like the podcast too, because I think they're learning. Where I'm having leaders like yourself on the podcast because I think it's very important. So, but it does become sometimes it's hard because on Friday nights I'm putting this together to put out on Saturday morning, and then I'm putting some clips together, and sometimes I'll do post one on Wednesday. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of work and effort. There's a long about way to say that, but I know what you're going through.
But when you love it, like it's worth it, right?
Yeah, it is, and it brings me to a lot of people like yourself, right? And it pushes me to reach out. Me even reaching out to you, I wasn't sure, if you would want to do it, and I was like, well, let's just try. And that's what I did to Nicole Saunders from Zendesk. It's what I did with Elizabeth Kinsey from Slack and everybody else. So it pushes me to reach out to leaders in the space. So, and that's what I want, is I want leaders that can help, push the community kind of management, strategy, the leader stuff, forward, and to know what is really there. So, so I love that you're doing that. Are you doing this, or do you have a lot of people on your community now, and what's that like on your personal community?
Yeah. So for community by association, it's still relatively small, which is okay. We surpassed 100 people in in January. And the thing is, what I find is that yes, there are people who definitely have the official role of community manager in these organizations, but lots of times what we tend to see in associations is that they'll think, okay, we need a community, and the person who manages that community already has a full-time job. So it's membership specialists, while you are responsible for ensuring our membership growth as an association, also build this community. And they're like, I don't know what that means, but I'll try. And so they're doing that off the side of their desk, or they're like, hey, VP of communications, we want you to be responsible for launching this community. And they're like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And then so they do the things that they think they're supposed to do. And they start with platform and they're like, we did it. And so
you build it and they don't come. What happens?
Right. And so there are people in this space who are doing this work, but they don't identify as community managers because that is not the title that they have. And that's lots of times not the work they were hired to do.
Yeah.
And so the challenge then is finding those people and letting them know, hey, we understand that you've got this work on your desk and you've got this under your belt right now. And unless and until your association says we need a dedicated community team for this work, you're it. Here's a space for you to be able to do that work. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is last year I launched a state of association communities survey to really see how these programs are being resourced and, whether or not they've got the support within the organization to help them grow, and whether or not that understanding exists behind where those, what the value of those communities are. And so to benchmark against that, I need to do that again. So I'm going to be putting out that survey again, probably within the next couple of weeks, just so that we can continue to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
My guess is that we'll see more and more official community managers in these associations, but I'm also interested to see whether or not we're making any progress in terms of support, in terms of teams growing, in terms of budgets growing, and those types of things. So, those are things that we'll uncover, but I think that it's really
one way or another. Or?
I think there are definitely. I think that there are probably more roles, but I don't know that there's more financial support for these programs in these spaces. And the reason is because associations and nonprofits don't have big budgets for the most part. Yeah. Most of the time, they're small staff associations and organizations, and they have maybe 50 people, maybe 100 people. If you're lucky, you come across an association or a nonprofit that's got 300 or 400 people that work there. But when you think about why associations and nonprofits exist, it's a little bit more philanthropic. So they put a lot of effort and a lot of resourcing behind things like membership growth, and events. And it's so funny to me because the whole reason associations and nonprofits exist is the same reason that communities exist, to bring people together.
Yep.
Yet when you say, hey, how are you thinking about community as a program within your organization? They're like, I don't know what that means. Right. Which is mind-boggling to me.
I think sometimes, and probably, I say more so, but a lot in associations, I can assume that, because there's not a big budget for it. And although there might be buzz around communities because of the buzzing stuff even going around for the last 2 years, and maybe there's not money, but there's interest in communities there and pretty much anywhere. If you think about it, like, especially in the product side and things like that, that, like people just think you build something and they come and it just, you can't half-ass it in a sense. I'm not a big believer in, hey, let's build this community and we'll just kind of do these things for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, to take off and then we'll get a community manager or whatever. I mean, either do it or don't, because most likely, if they're trying to grow membership and stuff like that, I would assume community can help that in a big way. Like, I mean, I don't know, but it just seems like if you have a lot of people that you want to come into your community as an association, you bring them in, and then you've got, like, you use Higher Logic, is that right? Or do you use some other platform for other stuff?
Yeah, for PMI, we have a custom built solution, and for community by association, we use CrowdStack.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I don't know why I thought Higher Logic. Anyways, any of these platforms can bring you those memberships, right? I mean, once you've got it, you've got the email address, first name, last name, and then you can start building out, I assume, the journey, for the customers and everything else about, digitally, and just, I don't know, like, to me, that's just basic. I don't know. But.
It is. And I think the thing, that where we kind of get maybe stuck from an association standpoint is that if I'm building out a membership program, I know the value that brings to my association. I know that having members means that brings in dues, and in exchange for those dues, here's what we give to people. And it's not that simple with community. There is a level of relationship building and trust building that goes into building community, right? Because it's not just standing up the best damn platform that you can find and expecting people to come in and then making sure it's connected to all of your other digital infrastructure and being like, yeah, we got it. But as I'm coming into this community, do I trust that what I post is not going to reach back to my boss because I have a problem that I'm trying to express to the community and figure out how to handle? Does that help me, or can I trust that I am saying that I'm looking for a job and know that not someone from my organization is going to see that I'm looking for a job? Do I trust and understand that, if I give my opinion on a question, that someone's not going to lash out at me? And that takes time to build. That takes time to understand from a community member standpoint that, yeah, this organization has my back. They understand that, I understand why I'm here. I understand why this community exists and how it can help benefit me and how it's going to help me move along the rest of my journey, even though if they're not thinking in those terms, like they know why that community is there and how it's going to help them. And then the organization can demonstrate that they also understand what those needs are. And that takes time. That is not trust. Something you can just, you can't just pop the can, pour it out and be like, okay, look at all this stuff we've got. You have to take time to build that. And I think that sometimes people approach community building the same way they would approach a product launch, the same way that they would approach building out a new certification, the same way that they would approach creating content. And it's not, there's so much more that goes into that. And you're dealing with how people navigate spaces versus whether or not they will adopt the thing that you just released, right? And so that's a key thing that I think
I love that.
Sometimes people get confused about, that causes the whole, well, community doesn't work. Community does work. How did you go about strategizing and thinking about why that community needs to exist? And so sometimes you have to take them all the way back to the drawing board.
I think it's such a good point because it's really about trust, at the end of the day. And you just put it in perspective. Let's say you're part of a group, of runners, for example. And, like I was thinking about this yesterday. So we have this thing here, just put it in a personal level, because that's really what it is you don't just build like this big community and we're all friends all of a sudden. It takes time to build those relationships, even on a digital space, like because of all the things that you just said. It's you got to trust. So there's this group that we get together every Thursday, and there's also a Facebook group of community people. I'm just trying to put it in perspective, and then not everybody has to come, but sometimes people come to this run. It's called Dallas Dirt Runners, and this new person came, and so it's her first time, and so I knew her from running from another group, but she didn't know the rest of the group, right? So if I didn't run with her, luckily she was my speed and everything else. I ran with her and introduced her to the group a little bit, and so she talked and she was excited. But it's got to be a hard thing for her to come into this space that everybody else knows each other, and she doesn't know anybody but me, and luckily she knew me. Can you imagine if they don't know anyone? It's even harder. And it's hard even for a group sometimes to accept a new person in. You know what I mean? Like, who is this person? You know what I mean? So not to say that was the case from yesterday, but that's the thinking. Still you go in and you're kind of looking, and sometimes if it's a post, maybe you want to post, maybe you don't. Like, it's just that's the hardest thing to do, is to get people to engage, right? Like, how do you do that? Only a very small percent of your people will engage anyways, and a small percentage of those people that will engage will be your super user type people to help answer. But then how do you kind of continue that? Because those super users get, I'm getting off a little bit, but they get tired too. So how do you kind of keep that funnel going on a consistent basis? Bringing new people in, bringing new people to engage, bringing new people to become a super, all those kinds of things. And it's just a vicious cycle, and it's hard to do. And it's hard to explain that to executives and others, to say, well, this thing's not working. Like, we've been open almost a year. And can you imagine, like, so I'm presenting numbers, and sometimes the numbers month over month, or sometimes I have 100 new users, sometimes I'll have 50 new users, and then traffic is up and down that first year. It's not very consistent, and I'm like, well, one, we're a very small company,
Right.
Two is, people still don't completely trust. That's why we build programs to engage them, to give them the right content and things like that. And when we build the right programs, people will continue to come. They'll start asking questions. They'll help start answering questions and all those things. But this could take, this could be a year long, 2 years long, or whatever. This is a journey. And then you got to continue doing different things to make sure that they continue to engage, and making sure you're still relevant to what they're looking for to do. And I can imagine you've been doing it for a long time at one place, I think. And so I'm sure you can relate, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we have a pretty large community at PMI, and it's a large global community with over 900,000 registered users. Of course, they're not all active, but we've got a pretty big community. But, when we're looking at success and we're looking at whether or not the things that we're doing in our community are working, yes, we're looking at things like the number of users who are coming to the community. We're looking at content output. We're looking at those types of things. But the more meaningful things to me that tell a story, and the metrics that I tend to go toward when I have to kind of explain, whether or not the community is being successful or driving value, is, are people coming back?
Yeah.
What does our return user rate look like?
Well, I like that.
What does our unique user rate look like? Not just overall users, but are there different people coming into the community?
Yep.
Are they having conversations? So are they messaging each other? Are they using the inbox feature? If they are, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How long is it taking people to get their questions answered? So what's the average time that takes? How many questions are getting answered? What's that ratio look like?
Yep.
Is content being shared? So once we post that content, are people sharing it? So those are the types of things that we kind of look at that tell that story. And then from a business aspect, we're also looking at things like, does something that we enabled as part of the community experience contribute to an event attendance, product conversion, purchase of membership, renewal of membership, journey to certification, those types of things. So we're really kind of looking at, how do we take the analytics that we have within the back end of our custom system, marry those with enterprise data analytics and voice of the customer data to tell that full story. And that's how we kind of present that value to ensure that we're able to effectively talk about what community is not only doing for our members, but what it's doing for the organization. So it's always still a challenge, right? Because, sometimes the question comes up, well, you didn't have as many new users come in last month as you did the month before. Why is that? No, we didn't have as many. And that's because we held, more maybe webinars last month than we did this month. But if you look at how many people returned or who had successful search results, that's also very telling, right? So if they're coming back, that means that they're getting value out of the community, and here's the journey that they're taking.
Well, you mentioned something that I'm interested in, is successful search. So what does that mean? Like, they search something and they're successful. How do you determine that?
So one of the things that, we've looked at previously is, if someone enters a search term and it brings up results, not only did they click on it, but did they spend any time in that content, right? Because sometimes people who are like, oh, successful search means that they put in something and they clicked on it and boom, successful search. Not necessarily. But if I can take a look at, if someone put in a term, a search term, clicked on a link, and then how much time they spent on that piece of content. If they spend 2 seconds, that's not necessarily a successful search. Maybe they're like, oh, wrong thing. But if they spent 3 minutes, they probably read it, right? Yeah. So that means that they likely found what they looked for, or found what they were looking for. So those are the types of things that we kind of look at to ensure that we're getting some meaningful engagement metrics and not just things that are surface and look like they're good metrics, like page views. I hate that metric. I don't like that metric at all if it's not married with some other data that helps tell us what that might mean.
I don't disagree.
But yeah.
But you know, the page view, here's the problem is that some of these executives are stuck on the page view look. So instead of like what I do, instead of just fighting it, say, okay, you know, that's one metric we'll show. You know, so I think you just have to kind of know your audience. And I agree with you. Page view, I could just click on page views, like click, you know, and then sometimes, and then even if you have like a bug in the system or whatever, it still moves your page views up. And so that's the problem with page views. It's not necessarily accurate every single month because of who knows what, you know, but I think the other metrics from a Google Analytics standpoint are pretty good. You've already mentioned some, you know, on how long are people staying on certain pages and, you know, unique visitors or new visitors or ones that, you know, that come back. I love those. I do some of the same things. I want to go back to the search thing because I'm still kind of intrigued with, so I know that you can look up certain links or certain places to see how long people are staying on pages, but what I'm not sure about, and I'm not sure if you're saying this or not, but is if somebody does a search, so like in the Higher Logic platform, I can look at all the searches that are done and by who. But I can't really tell if that was necessarily successful because it doesn't, maybe it does somewhere, but if so, then that particular piece is kind of off, but it doesn't necessarily tell me what they clicked on per se from that search term. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if Marjorie's in there and she searches master data management, I don't know if she was successful or not. You know what I mean? Like, not sure. So help me understand kind of a little bit deeper on that because you've got me very intrigued actually.
Yeah. So because we've got some backend data analytics in our system that's custom built, and we marry those with enterprise data analytics, we're able to see more of a full journey, and we're able to query information a little bit differently than you would in, say, like a Higher Logic or a Chorus. So the thing about, I think, you know, if we think about one of those things that's a benefit of having a custom built system is that you can also custom build how you pull out your analytics. So we're able to run queries that tell us a little bit more information than maybe a normal analytics suite would, and then marry that with additional information we get from our data warehouse.
I love it. That is the benefit of building your own or having a platform that allows you to build off of that platform. You know, some platform that I know is really good, and you probably know a few, but one is like Telligent. In the past, you know, if you had a developer that could really was really good, they could do a lot of really cool stuff, you know, with the platform, marry it up with, you know, I remember marrying it up with some e-commerce platforms, right? And then we could move over like, so you know how whenever you go to an e-commerce platform and you're trying to buy something and it gives you recommendations, I can move those recommendations over based on the question on the Telligent platform that will show all the, you know, product recommendations that you could buy. And I mean, this, because our goal was to bring, you know, 10% of our users from the community platform over to the e-commerce platform and to create an account. Whether they create an account or not, that wasn't up to me, but it was to move that traffic over. And, you know, that was one of the business goals. It was just cool, you know, like you said, you can just do some really nice, awesome things. The problem is that you have to have a developer that can do all that stuff, you know, and so, you know, and that pretty much need it, I don't know, full time, but at least half of the time, I'm sure to, you know, I remember having a developer and having a roadmap for that developer, you know, this things we need this quarter, boom, 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 let's go after it. And, you know, the platforms today like Kuros, Higher Logic, and probably some others don't allow you to do that, right? So it's just, they're good for what they do, but, you know, they have APIs to connect to different business systems, but even that is difficult, you know? So anyways, I love it. I think that's awesome, especially if you get the analytics stuff down, because then you can really think about the business goals, you know, and tie those directly. Do we get more memberships because of community, you know, or do they stay longer? Do they renew more? Do they buy more? I don't know. There's probably lots of really cool things that you can do. You can't do that with the ones I just mentioned. So that's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's been great. We've really been able to do some really neat stuff with it. One of the things that we did a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic hit, was we were able to tap into voice of the customer capability that we were building out as an organization. And so we have a tool internally that really kind of pulls from different systems within the organization to tell us things like sentiment around particular products, experiences, those types of things. And when I knew that this was rolling out, I was like, hey, there's a whole lot of conversations that take place within the community. We should certainly be plugged into that. And so now we've got a dashboard within our Voice of the Customer platform that we can create, we can customize, that shows us data, voice of the customer data that comes out of the community around any given topic. It can show us sentiment. Wow. It can show us, I think we can get some sort of NPS data out of it. Like there's lots that we can get out of that community. And then we can take a look and see what people are talking about, what the sentiment is around that. And if it's product or event related things that are not event or that are not related to the community, we can farm that data out and say, this is what we're seeing, do with it what you will. And that awesome. Dashboard is also available to anyone who has access to the VOC platform.
Wow. No, I think that you're really doing some cool things, from a, business standpoint, right? Like, business, what are the business outcomes that are coming out of community? You can really show that. I'm sure that's taken some time to do. Is that right? Yeah, takes a while, but I love it. Geez, I'm going to have to get more of these stories, Marjorie. This is great.
Yeah, it's been a journey, but we're really getting to a point where we can really provide some really robust information around the behaviors and the information and the conversations that are happening within the community, and then that can help inform product strategies, that can help inform customer experience, that can help inform user journeys, that can help inform a lot. And so that was very important for me when I moved into a more leadership role within the community department or the community area to really kind of figure out how do we make sure that data is connected and that it's providing some significant information that not only tells us what's happening within the community, but then what happens when people leave the community, or what data can we pull in that will help inform what we do from a community programming standpoint.
Wow, so sophisticated. I love it. I didn't ask you, but do you like beers at all?
I do.
Oh, good. What do you like?
My favorite one is it's DeClaw's Sweet Baby Jesus is my favorite. My absolute favorite.
What? I've never heard of it.
It is a chocolate hazelnut porter. It's delicious.
So it's dark, but it's chocolate and okay. That sounds kind of good. I'm not a big dark beer fan, and I don't like the poppy stuff. I kind of like the lighter stuff. So wow. I'm gonna try it though. I don't know if I can get it here, but I'll definitely try it. Where are you located?
I am located right outside of Philadelphia.
Okay, I'm in Dallas, Texas. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea where you're located. It's funny. We started talking like this is our first time to really talk community like one-on-one. I don't think you and I have ever had a one-on-one conversation. We've been in a lot of the same places and even done some things together, sort of, right? Just some panel discussions and things like that. But it's just like you popped up there and I popped up there and a couple other people were there, and but I'm really glad that you came on. This is really awesome. Anything that kind of parting words, thoughts?
I think the only thing that I would just continue to say is one of the things that I think is really important as the community profession evolves is that we start to challenge some of the things that we not necessarily know to be true, right? Like there are foundational elements of community building that will always be true. But there are also things that I think that we can question when it comes to how we build community for our communities. And not everything is going to be a fit. And I think it's okay for folks to question that and really figure out what are the processes, what are the frameworks, what are the things that actually will work and that I actually need to adopt in order for this to be a successful community for whatever purpose it's there for. So listen to people who've been in this space, but also trust your gut. You are building that community for a reason. You are. So adopt what works, scrap what doesn't, and build processes and frameworks and share your learning as you build, because that is how this profession is going to evolve. It's not up to me or anybody else to dictate what that looks like. We all have a hand in that.
Yeah, I want to say something, but you just said it beautifully. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Nice one, Marjorie. So thank you, everyone, for coming to another Peers Over Beers. I'm Chris Detzel and
Marjorie Anderson.
Thanks again, Marjorie, for coming.
Thanks for having me, Chris.